Hi Taurus, welcome to Starchaeology Tarot. I am Desi. This is your May Tarot reading. This is good for Taurus, Sun, Moon, Rising, and Venus. I'm interested in messages today that will support you, enlighten you, empower you, and give you the most generous perspective of yourself, your life, others, your present, your future, because that's really the recipe to bringing about the best potential of any timeline. So I'm going to take a moment and tune in, call in your guides, call in your ascended masters, angels and archangels. What are the messages for Taurus for May? What are the messages for Taurus for May? Ooh! See if that's important. Something flew out. King of Swords. What are the messages for Taurus for May? Knight of Cups, Five of Cups, interesting. Wow, Three of Swords. Taurus, so interesting. These are three cards that have all been in other signs readings this month. It's amazing how much overlap we have, how much we share. I mean, there's so much that's different month to month, but there is so much also that we do share just astrologically speaking, and because there really is, you know, some of every sign in all of us, so there's overlap always based on our charts. This is really particularly interesting. This is a month for you of either passing some sort of certain judgment about a situation that you're in, needing judgment, being in a position of power where you are the judge, where you make decisions, and there's a real need, or maybe dealing with someone where someone else is making a decision about you, and either way there is a need for grounding in rational, logical thought, and fighting against the tendency to succumb to our biases, because we all have them, and sometimes the people who struggle with this the most are the people who actually are very King of Swords energies, characters, people who are incredibly logical, are incredibly rational, really are great critical thinkers, because they have that skill, they have that authority there, that it's very easy to forget that they still can be flawed. They still can make mistakes. They still are not immune to their own bias. They are not the ultimate arbiter of truth. And when someone equates their value to their intellect, to their ability to judge a situation appropriately, then it crosses a line into then making a mistake in judgment somehow reflects some sort of moral failure on their part, or attack on their own personal value in some way. And that's where we get into kind of scary, treacherous territory. So this is either something that you are struggling with, Taurus, or this is something, a King of Swords character in your life that you are struggling with. Maybe this is a partner, a boss, a colleague, a friend, a family member. So there is just this overall theme of judgment, of being, exercising authority in judgment, in decision making, in critical thinking, and really being aware of the possibility of mistakes, and having that humility while still being able to exercise judgment to the best of your ability, and really use it for for the truth, not for pushing an agenda or pushing, advancing your own desires or motives that are personal to you. So keeping that in mind, that's what flew out at the beginning of the reading here. Knight of Cups. You're in a situation this month where you are also really, you have a very detailed internal adventure happening. You're finding yourself very lost in your imagination, living out scenarios in your head far more actively than you live out scenarios in your real physical world. Some of this is like getting lost in fantasy. It's good. It's like, oh, these are the dreams that I have, and it's like you're building this internal world that is so rich with detail and so complex and extensive that it's actually becoming overwhelming to execute on that internal world, to actually bridge the gap between your internal world and your external world. So you find yourself full of this spirit of adventure, but are struggling with the ability to actually act on it, to show that you are adventurous, to walk the walk and not just talk the talk, or maybe in your case, think the think. I don't know, I just made that up. What is getting in the way? Why is it so difficult to bring to translate thought into action? It actually has to do with, wow, we have this 5 of Cups and 3 of Swords. I mean, it's really quite clear. There is something, I think, in your past, a heartbreak in your past, something that maybe you interpret as a betrayal. It's not necessarily a betrayal. In fact, it could be that you seeing it as a betrayal is something that is blocking your ability to process it, accept it, and heal, because you're keeping it emotionally charged by labeling it as wrongdoing against you. Either you are stuck in the mourning of this loss, you are stuck in this period of grieving that is turning out to be permanent. It's not something that you are really moving through in a productive way. It's like you are so focused on the loss that it is blinding you to other truths of your life, other facts about your reality. And the advice in that case is to really, this is maybe where that King of Swords comes in, equal the scales a little bit, level the scales a little bit, make this, see the heartbreak and pain that you're feeling as something that is faceless. It doesn't have to be so personal. You can make this less personal. And by maybe taking some of the details away, maybe unattaching the pain to certain details that make this more painful to you, make it more personal to you, by cutting those attachments in that way, by making it more like, faceless, being more fair in how you judge the situation, what happened, maybe some of you are struggling with kind of like a victim mentality. And it is maybe because you have a very specific face here instead of a blank one. So it's just very, very personal to you. And that's keeping these scales from really being level. It's really keeping you from justly, rationally, logically evaluating the situation for what it is. So there's a need to adjust your perspective in a way that isn't biased towards prolonging your own pain and suffering. And if you're able to do this, then this period, this intense focus you have on loss, on the loss in your life, will dissipate. Your focus will widen. You'll be able to see the forest for the trees. You'll be able to have some perspective that is actually more supportive to you, more supportive to your present moment and to your future and to your greatest potential. And if you don't actually want that, then you have to ask yourself, what is it that I want? If I'm not willing to do that, then what does that say about my attachment to pain? What does that say about my attachment to my grief, to my loss? How I maybe am choosing to let it define me? Does that make me feel comfortable in some way? Does that make me feel safe? Does that put the situation and the people all involved into neat little boxes that simplifies it for me? Sometimes we avoid judging a situation fairly and honestly and generously because the truth is complex, and we don't want that complexity. We don't want to acknowledge that nuance because it feels messy. Then it becomes not as easy as just assigning people good or bad in the situation, perpetrators and victims. It becomes messy, and that is often disorienting for everyone, honestly. So the advice here, Taurus, really is to, if you find yourself in this period of this intense focus of loss that's keeping you from acting, it's keeping you from taking your inner world and connecting it to your outer world. This is about depersonalizing the situation for you, looking at that event that caused you this loss and grief and pain, and translating it into a language that is more universal, that's less personal, that's less, less of a, allows you to see it as less of a personal attack on you. This is more generous, not only to everyone involved, but also to yourself. Now, others of you, the imagination that you are, the imaginative internal world that you are lost in, that you're building, is actually one of pain. So it's like the person you present on the outside is very different from the person that you are on the inside. And that conflict of who you present as versus who you feel to be, not only makes it very difficult for you to just exist, but it really affects your ability to judge situations well, to judge your situation, to judge other situations, to be a logical, rational, grounded thinker, critical thinker. And the thing that is really keeping you from being your true self in the external world is that the grief that you feel, that you're not really processing, but you're swimming in, is just being built bigger and bigger and bigger inside you. That's what your imagination is working towards. That's what it's doing. It's building a world of stories of loss and grief and mourning inside of you, with no outlet. It has no external outlet. It's not going anywhere. It's just kind of digging holes within yourself that then you feel like you're drowning in. It's like drowning inside yourself. And the deeper you fall down these holes, the further you are from the external world, the more that gap increases of who you are on the inside versus who you are on the outside. That creates more discord in your existence, and that's really hard to overcome. So if that's how you're feeling, Taurus, the advice there for that is again to examine the actual event, the actual heartbreak, this Three of Swords, with a more with the eyes of like a judge, you know, taking yourself out of it as much as you can, because the more that you are in it, the less able you are to judge it appropriately and honestly. And that's not fault of your own. That's human nature. But this is about turning this situation around and disconnecting from this event in a way that doesn't define you, that isn't the catalyst for everything that you imagine, for everything that goes on in your inner world. You deserve to be imagining things that are wonderful for yourself, visualizing things that are wonderful for yourself, looking at potentials that make you feel good, not drowning in the potentials that make you feel bad. And part of the reason that you are maybe drowning in those potentials that make you feel bad is because there is a real attachment to this event that is stopping you from being able to process it in the most helpful way. So if you find yourself avoiding dealing with this, the message here really is to face this head on. This isn't something to be neglected, to be pushed under the rug. Otherwise, the longer you extend this grief period, the more fantastical and complex this world of grief and loss that you're building inside of yourself becomes, and it's harder to find your way out of it. It's like building a maze that you're just becoming more and more and more complex, and the more energy you devote to that, the more lost you get in here. So this really is recommending a more head-on approach to dealing with that. I hope that is clear and helpful. There were some light bulb moments in here for you, some helpful reflections. Whatever resonated is what is meant for you, Taurus. What didn't is not meant for you. Thank you so much for being here and for connecting with me in this way. It's a real honor and privilege to offer you any help at all. That's what I'm trying to do. So thanks for joining me in this space and being open to being supported in this way. If you did find anything helpful about this, please consider liking this video, subscribing, sharing this channel with anyone, any of your witchy friends or spiritual friends, or self-growth focused friends. I would really appreciate helping get the word out. And if you'd like to help me help you better, help me make videos that are more focused, more helpful, more varied, moon transit videos, daily card pulls, pick a pile readings, more specific niche videos about love, career, money, family, etc. Please consider checking out my Patreon in the link below and supporting this work for just a couple dollars a month, or however much you would like. I would really be grateful. Regardless, I'm very grateful for you, Taurus. I love you very much. I'm rooting for you as always, and I'll see you next time.